Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we have a remarkable guest whose story exemplifies resilience, determination, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Joining us is retired United States Army Captain Rich Ingram. Rich's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. He served in the Georgia Army National Guard and the regular Army, navigating both enlisted and officer ranks. His service was marked by a life-altering event on July 20th, 2005, when an IED attack in Yusufia, Iraq, resulted in the loss of his arm. But this setback was merely a detour on his path to greatness. Refusing to let this injury define his future, Rich fought tirelessly to change military policy, becoming the first amputee to commission as an Army officer. He served 3 more combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan before retiring in 2013. Post-retirement, Rich has embraced life's challenges with the same vigor he displayed in the military. He's held leadership positions in a Fortune 500 company, built and sold profitable small businesses, and become an accomplished endurance athlete, competing in triathlons and ultramarathons. His story from trauma to triumph is a powerful testament to the human spirit for capacity and resilience and growth. Rich is also a keynote speaker, delivering powerful presentations on perseverance and resilience. Through his story, listeners will learn practical techniques to cultivate resilience in their own lives and find hope in their journeys. So let's dive in and warmly welcome Rich Ingram, a true strategic veteran dedicated to inspiring and leading others through his incredible journey. Rich, brother, thank you so much for your time today and for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Man, listening to that, I need to get you to write all my intros.
I'm sure we could work something out, man.
your verbiage is, I was like, man, he's using some big words. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Dude, so let's jump right in, man, because you've got a fascinating story. You and I, you don't know it yet, but our careers almost parallel each other. Obviously, I didn't lose an arm and whatnot, but I did a deployment in Yusufia, Qadisiyah. What's the other one there?
Mahmudiyah, yeah. When were you there?
I was there in 9 and 10. So yeah, when you were there, I was in Tikrit, Mosul, Beji, Samarra, that whole region of Iraq. Then my second one, I went out west to Heat and AR Rupa on the Jordan and the Syrian border, supporting the Marines. And then the third one, we were basically, I guess, I don't know. We spent most of our time at FOB Constitution. We started it in Mahmudiyah at a little COP there, and then they moved us as we were drawing down. So yeah, that's when I was there.
Okay, so 9 and 10, I was in not Al Assad. I was in Anbar, but I don't even remember where we were at. Around Fallujah. So I spent a lot of time in Fallujah in 2010.
Did you do 3 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan?
Yeah.
That's
so
the
my third
same
one.
thing.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah. My last one was in the Panjwai district of Afghanistan in 2012. So yeah, we're a rare breed, man.
Well, we're right next to each other. I was in Maywan.
I was in Mushan.
Okay.
So probably the other side of the river.
Okay. Yeah, I was that was like the Reg Desert, like in the south. So it's Kandahar province, but like southwest.
Yep. And we were in the birthplace of the Taliban, man, running around in
it was hot.
Panjwai. Yeah, it was It was rough, but we'll get to all of that, brother, man. So let's start,
Yeah.
dude. Where'd you grow up, and what inspired you to join the Army, man?
Man, so I grew up in a small town in Georgia. You can't tell by the accent. But LaGrange, Georgia, so it's on the Alabama border. And I guess you could call my upbringing pretty affluent, right? My parents met in medical school. My dad started his practice in Georgia, so I had everything that a kid would need except guidance, man. Like I had had no direction really. And so I obviously a kid without direction gets in trouble. And you know, man, I got a lot of brawling, a lot of drinking. I mean, it's a miracle that I got into college. I don't know how that happened. But it did. And it's also a miracle that my police record never never barred me from enlisted service. But it's just minor stuff like drinking in public and fighting, like normal kid stuff. But anyway, so when I went to college, I went to one of 6 senior military colleges in the country, North Georgia. So the other ones like Citadel, Texas A&M, Norwich. And man, like I got a little taste of it, and I really I needed structure, right? I mean, I really did. I was always an athlete, so I always enjoyed just I had a lot of energy. I just didn't know what to do with it. And but man, I ended up I was very ambitious with my my educational goals that first semester in college, and so I decided that I would dual major in physics and engineering. And I'd never opened a book, right? I mean, like I don't know how I graduated high school. And so my physics and engineering, okay. And so I ended up with a 1.7 GPA. And come to find out that like hindsight, after talking to some buddies that had gone to Georgia Tech, that wasn't that bad. When you talk about, yeah, oh my God, man, because everybody's like rushing a fraternity. I mean, ours is a little bit different, right? Like they're rushing fraternities and getting hammered. We're like getting hazed in the middle of the night. But it's relative. But I quit. I quit after that first semester, and I called my dad and I was like, hey, uh, I'm coming home. And he was like, no, you're not. I was like, wait, hold on a second. We didn't talk. That wasn't an option, man, like, um, I found myself homeless. Like, you can only sleep on couches for so long. And it's not like I had really established strong friend. Like I was just out of high school. Like everybody still lived with their parents, and so I bought a tent at Walmart and a little Coleman heater, and it was so cold in this creek I was sleeping by that the heater froze in my tent. And man, like I got a job. I did get a job making like $22,000 a year. That's how it was presented to me. And I was like 18. I was like, man, that's awesome.
That's a lot of
Uh,
money when you're
that's a lot.
18. Yeah.
Oh, $22,000. I mean, they knew how to throw it at me. And it was working 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Like I haven't calculated what that is, but I
We could
mean, it
do it
was
real quick.
it
Hold on.
wasn't
What
the
is
1930s, like that was nothing. So 22,000, uh, and then so what is that? 72 hours a week?
you said 12 hours a day
Yeah, 12 hours a day.
times 6. That's 72 hours a week. So 22,000 divided by 72. That is not good, dude. It's like $305 a week.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That's actually more than what I thought. Well, yeah, I guess yeah, I'm sure I never filed
Well,
taxes. I was
that's
pretty
before
irresponsible.
taxes, right? Yeah. $305 a month. Dude, but like really thinking about that, I know we're getting to your military service. When I was a private in 2003, and I know you can relate to this because you came at the same time, my paycheck was only $800 a month.
Oh
It
my
wasn't
god,
much.
dude! Yeah, that's it. That is ridiculous. How we do that, and I mean we had to counsel soldier when we got back from because the worst thing is those kids that get stuck on rear D on rear detachment. Why? Okay, we've been in country 8 months or whatever. There's no point in sending them over for a month or however long. And I'll never forget, man. We got back in this private. I mean, he was a PV2. Like I don't even think he had been in long enough to have a E3. And he had bought this Mustang that had been flooded. Like it had been flooded out. I can't remember. He had one of those payday loans, right? That was 20% interest. And then his insurance, well, I mean, his insurance was just as much as the car payment. And so, I was a first lieutenant at the time, because right when I got through officer's basic course, like I went straight to Iraq. So I wasn't that familiar with how to deal with these situations. And my platoon sergeant was like, all right, so we gotta call these loan people and basically like threaten them that they're loan shark. And that word, man, that's just so fucking dirty, dude. And I don't remember what happened, but I know like we got it taken care of. And I mean, we had another kid. This one was the E5. He had what is it called, he had used his like PlayStation as collateral for a loan. I mean, it's just like,
Dude,
you
but
can't make this shit up.
and this is real, man, dude. I was at Fort Stewart in my younger years when I became a young NCO corporal and a sergeant, and I would have to deal with this, like you said, stupid interest rates on 20% is ridiculous. Like who does that really? Like a desperate private who doesn't know any better. But it got so bad that there was a wait list to get JAG to get them out of these contracts. That's how bad it was
No
getting.
way. I mean, that's
Yeah, dude. But anyway, so you bought this tent and this heater. It's contrary to popular belief in South Georgia. It gets cold, really
Well,
cold.
so this was actually in North Georgia. So I was in college. This is Dahlonega, Georgia. So folks did, yeah, in the mountains. And so but I finally, got tired of washing my hair in a creek and brushing my teeth in the, gas station bathroom. And I called my dad, or I went, actually, this is when I signed up for the National Guard. So, I started thinking like, this is not like how I want to things to end up. And it's like my dad, he knew what he was doing, right? By letting me go through that. But I signed up for the National Guard, because we had in at least in Georgia, I'm assuming most states have it. It's called a simultaneous membership program. So you can sign up to be enlisted in the National Guard, and then you can still go on active duty. So you're basically, you kind of train as like a, you know, enlisted guy, but then you get to like sit with your lieutenant and stuff, whatever. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, I'm going to base training in March. Can I come home? He's like, man, yes, under conditions. And and he said, no drinking. You have to be in by 7. No television. You have to read at least a book a week. Write a book report on it, and you have to work out and run every single day. And he had a weekly, a daily calendar by the week, where I would have to fill out my plan for the week. And at the end of every day, he would initial, like I'd have to write down what I did that day, and he would initial next to it, and he would grade my book reports. And I mean, this was like intense, dude. But I'll tell you what, it was really tough the first, few weeks, because my buddies were like, hey man, let's go party or whatever. And there's, partying in LaGrange, Georgia. But after a while, man, it got like, I loved it. It was fun. Like I was getting stronger, faster, and I wasn't reading a book a week. I was reading a few books a week, and just, when I got to basic training, I fell in love with it, and I was more prepared for basic training because of what my dad put me through a mini boot camp, right? And when I got there, dude, everybody always says, well, oh, don't raise your hand, don't volunteer. Dude, I fucking volunteer for everything. It's like, I didn't want to miss a beat, dude. That's what I fell in love with, man. I wanted to spend my life in a combat arms career. Cause like you, I don't know what battalion you were in. I was in Charlie 258.
It was an Echo 258, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right.
So again, like a lot in common here, dude.
What year were you there?
I went, you were in March of 2003, and I went in June of 2003. So I know for a fact I stood there when you
There's
came
some
back from
overlap.
Honor Hill. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure I was there at 4 in the fucking morning clapping for your dumb ass as you come off of
Uh,
Arna Hill. Just
right.
like, when is it my fucking turn, right?
God, man, I miss it. I will never forget the first day. You know, you get there and you go to that whatever they call it, like where they funnel you through and whatever
30th
before you.
AG.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
man, how do you remember that?
There's just certain things I can't let go of, man. And that was 30th AG for me, because I'm a farm kid from Indiana. So that's like really pivotal moment for me, like being yelled at and screamed at, told to get off a bus, go shave in 2 minutes. Like I never experienced anything like that before in my life. So it just kind of sticks in my head. Plus I still think basic training was kind of a joke.
Yeah. Oh man, the guys that I got close to, like we would talk. We're like, some more is coming. Like they got to be do it. You know what I mean? Like because you hear all these stories about how it's so hard, and it's like I don't know.
I don't know. I
didn't
mean,
really get that.
I was a three sport athlete in high school, and that's the
That's
only
probably
reason I
why.
kept
Yeah.
my grades up. And so I expected it to be a lot more physically demanding. And don't get me wrong, there were times when we were on total control where I was like, "This fucking blows. I hate this. I don't want to do this." But also, I was like, in the grand scheme of things, this really isn't that hard. A football camp is just as hard as this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure, but that's probably why you didn't think it was that hard. I mean, if you're used to, doing 2-a-days in the middle of the summertime, um, Fort Benning, Georgia is not too much more different. But I remember standing there with, like when we first got off that cow truck or whatever cattle truck, and just thinking like you have a duffel bag in each hand and you wait until they call your name and your serial number, and then that's when you like fall out to your platoon or wherever the hell you're going. And I was just like, I'm not going to drop these back because everybody's dropping the bag. And I was like, you fucking bitches. And because it's an infantry, right? Like that's how you like you stacked up against each other. And I'll never forget. I never dropped my fucking bags. I was so proud, so proud of that moment. But anyways, man, yeah, I fucking loved basic training. It was fun.
So where did you go after you graduated basic training? First, let's back up a minute. Why the infantry? Was it just out of necessity because you wanted to not be homeless anymore, go home? So you joined the army, picked the first thing that was available. Did you know you wanted to be an infantry guy? Like, what was that about?
Yeah, I did. It just seemed fun.
You got
um,
sold like I did with the recruiting videos, the dudes rappelling out of helicopters and doing all the cool guy shit, and then you find out when you get into the infantry and garrison, you either train or you're a janitor.
yeah, you're not repelling out of shit.
Right.
But I guess some people do. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's right. But at the same time, when I was at North Georgia, they kind of just like fed it into you. Everybody wanted to be an infantry officer. Like that's just what you did.
So you had the
It's
military school background, so that definitely helped influence, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's how everything that you did at the school, like when you're going through ROTC, all the tactics and procedures and stuff that you learn are all based on infantry, right? I mean, like so you have to learn how to do battle drill 1 alpha and lead platoons and patrolling and all that stuff. So it's all based off the infantry. And I don't know, man. It's kind of one of those you love to suck. You just kind of get used to it. I don't know.
Right, right, for sure. So where did you go? What was your first duty station? And then I assume you were probably pretty hot on a deployment right when you got there, right?
No, because remember I was in the National Guard first, so yeah, so I went back to college. So that was in '03, and I went back to school. So I had a good little time there, and still my drill. But then we came down on orders. That was probably in fall 2004. We received orders to report to Fort Stewart, is where we did our mobilization and train up. So I think we started that January '05.
Okay. So let's fast forward to July 20th of 2005. I know what you guys were doing in Yusufia because we were doing the same thing 5 years later. That For those that are listening, Mamadia, Lucifia, I can't say all the damn Yusufia.
Ludofia, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's like pretty much the Iron Triangle at the time, right? Like that was
Oh yeah, they
really,
call it was the triangle of death. That's
yeah.
what
It,
they
it,
consider.
it was an awful place, and I think it remained an awful place just for the duration of GWAT. But what were you guys doing? And let's talk about the incident that took your arm from you.
Yeah, so my platoon, we were battalion scouts, and so we did like reconnaissance and stuff like that. So we set up observation posts and um I mean presence
Just
patrols.
typical regular infantry shit.
Yeah, regular stuff. We cycled out doing QRF, quick reaction force type stuff from R5. Mama Dia used to be a chicken coop, right? We burned it down. We had two females in the battalion, and maybe one. I don't know, but the one had a hair straightener, like Daisy. Somehow she burned the fucking fob down with her hair straightener. And but anyways, we loved having whenever females came in, because like back then, and I say back then, but I mean in '05, this is like pretty much the beginning of the war. So there wasn't that, you were living in the middle of nowhere. So when a female came on I say the base, I mean it was an outpost pretty much. Oh, you could smell them from a mile away, and you're just like, when you're clearing your weapon coming in, you're like, every Joe getting off that fucking truck is like, where they at? Where they at? Where they at? Like drooling. So anyways, that's what we're doing. And that's what we're doing. July 20th, we were patrolling, somewhere between Mamadia, Yusufia, that area in 4 vehicle Humvee patrols. So this is before we MRAPs, and I was the rear gunner. And man, like I had always just wanted to fight for multiple reasons, but I think one, just because I'd had relatives almost in every single war, and I kind of wanted to see how I stacked up, right? Like you hear about these heroes that Normandy, like they kept going. Vietnam, I mean, one of my mentors was telling me that his buddy literally was getting he was the only one that survived an attack in Vietnam. He lost both of his arms, and he was still like trying to fight. And fortunately, somebody another unit came in and ended up helping out, and he survived that. But God, I just can't imagine that style of fighting. And on that day, did not happen how I envisioned it, man. We hit a roadside bomb, so we hit an ID, and I just remember the sound. And at that point, everybody yells ID, and you just hear that, and that's just like rings in my ears. ID, ID. And so, we got hit, and then the vehicle got catapulted and thrown into a roll. So, gunner jumps down, tries to grab the radio mount, and now we're saying rollover. And I just remember like closing my eyes and saying, "Lights out, say a prayer." Lights out, because gunner just doesn't survive that, right? Matter of fact, when we were in Fort Stewart, a kid died in a rollover. I mean, like, and
Yeah, and,
so,
and back then we didn't have the harnesses where you strap yourself into the floor anymore. Probably very
oh,
little
that's
armor
no,
at that point in time. Because I know my
yeah,
first deployment, we rolled up there in soft skins. I mean, I gunned on a 2-seater Humvee with a machine gun panel welded to the bed of
to
the damn
yeah.
Humvee, and we were using sandbags as armor on the floor. So, this isn't what you're used to seeing in the movies. Like your Humvee was probably pretty basic, right?
Yeah, well, we actually did. Man, we had the first series of up armored Humvees.
Which would make
So
sense for where you were at the time, because that was a rough place to be.
yeah, we did have some, but see, I don't know, about the soft skins. So I think we did have up armored, but you're right, we did not have the. You basically just sat in a banana hammock.
Yep. Yep, just
Is
a
what.
strap is what it was for the longest time, and then they created these really cool, like you said, the banana hammocks that was like a mesh kind of wider seat for you. It's kind of cool to sit here and talk to somebody who could like go through the evolution of what that looked like over the years.
You know what? You're right. We had like the seatbelt thing. We didn't have the banana hammock. Was I'm thinking it was like that was the MRAP days. So we didn't. Um. Yeah, man. But it's just like I, it's hard to explain when you feel like you're gonna die. And but when I hit the ground, I was just like, what the fuck just happened? And like I couldn't. It was like I was having a meta moment. Like I just couldn't believe it. But when I looked up, I saw that my driver was now unconscious in the passenger side in the TC seat. And so when I went to move for him, that's when I felt pain in my arm. And so and I was just thinking it was a break. It didn't hurt terribly. And so when I took my arm, I remember keeping my eyes on Spottiswood's, the name of this kid's driver. Took my hand and tried to feel for the brake. My hand just hit nothing. And like look down and my arm is just lying, like hanging on by a piece of flesh no bigger than your pinky finger. And just mangled blood, and so now I'm back in this like, fuck, I'm gonna die. And I just remember saying, you know what, like I'm not fucking dying here. And so I just scooped my arm up and ran with it. And I think we had taken like some small arms fire. We weren't in a fight. And so, and everybody knew exactly what to do. I mean, this wasn't, in that area, you got something happened almost every time you're outside, right? I mean, it was, but all the IDs, like I think there was only one other one to that point that had, you know, been injurious, but not to the extent of what happened to me and my TC, who my TC. So we get an IV started, tourniquet gets put on by my driver when he came to. So I got to give kudos to Spottis. Was 18-year-old. He had just met up with the unit like 2 weeks before, and so I'm laying down and I hear my TC Sergeant Joe Brown saying, "Would someone please get this Humvee off me?" The his Kevlar helmet has somehow been finagled this way, and the Humvee, like I don't axle. I mean I don't know. Obviously I didn't like
Yeah, you, yeah,
walk over there and check it out.
right. You're fucked up too.
Yeah.
So this is secondhand, but is the
Yeah.
Humvee laying on his helmet?
Yeah. And so and but he's alive. And you know I don't know how, but yeah, he got ejected out of the vehicle as well. And I will say this, man, like he probably had it worse than me, just because. So he broke his back in multiple spots, broke jaw. He just had these injuries that if we were walking down the street together, you would thank me for my service and not him. Whereas I got to go back in. I mean, he could never carry a ruck again. He could barely bend over. And so it's yeah, just want to be tangential on that one, because you never know what somebody's fucking going through, dude. I mean, just recently, what was the guy's name? Very famous tier 1 guy, just took his life. So there's just certain things that we just got to be cognizant of. But nonetheless, he did make a recovery. Just he had to live with some things. But when I got on the medevac, I was taken to Baghdad, and that's where they completed the amputation. And matter of fact, when I got wheeled into the hospital room after the amputation, and I remember seeing Joe Brown in there. We were sharing a room, and I just remember looking at him. I was like, "Dude, you look like shit." And he was just like, "Oh, you're making me laugh." His mouth wired shut, and yeah, the things you laugh at.
Well, dude, and that's the infantry humor, right? Like, because when we were in Afghanistan, we had a couple of guys. We had one triple amputee. We had several double amputees, and I remember when Josh lost both of his legs, stepped on that IED. They coming back and hearing the stories. It's like, hey man, did you see how many flips I got in? And it's like, dude, you just like went fucking 30 feet in the air, lost your damn legs, and the only thing you can say is did you see those flips? It's like that's the humor that we somehow dig deep and find in moments like that. And it's almost like a too soon moment, but it's never too soon in the infantry, right? Like
It's never too, everything's open season, man. You really get and that's where you have to be careful, because when I got to Walter Reed, you see these guys, these bilateral amputees, and whatever, missing multiple limbs, and so you just get callous to the injuries. These guys don't ever ask for help. They and part of it is just because, like, they need to prove to themselves that they can still do the things. And when you get back home, I mean, dude, there could be a 90-year-old lady like having trouble getting out of her car, or like spilling her groceries. I would just step over her, like, get out of my way. Like, you should be able to do this on your own. And so there was some empathy lessons that I had to learn after getting back. But yeah, man, like one guy, he fell out. We were at like this rowing thing, all these nonprofit, like, they'll take you out to try and get you like back into living an active lifestyle. And so we're doing this rowing thing, and a guy fell out of his wheelchair, and he so he's holding on to his wheelchair, trying to crawl back up into it. And another guy just steps over and was like, "Hey, Dave, you walk much?" And like, no help was offered. It was awesome.
so let's talk about your time at Walter Reed. How much I can only imagine. I know I'd be pretty bitter if I look down and obviously there's still a job to do in the moment, right? But you've had some time by the time you get to Walter Reed to like really come to terms with like I don't have a fucking arm anymore, right? And so what was that like for you? Because I think it's really important to show the audience, the level of resilience and perseverance that you have, because at this point, I assume pretty early on in your recovery, you're like, I'm going the fuck back, right? Like I'm gonna do this, and clearly your story is going to tell us that you achieved your goal and became the first commissioned amputee officer back on active duty. So let's talk about that thought process. Like, what is initially going through your head, because now you don't have an arm anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, initially, right when I I was anesthetized when I got to Baghdad, and right before I was wheeled into that hospital room and saw Joe Brown, I remember waking up and just groggily rolling over, and I see my nub is wrapped in bandages, and I closed my eyes and tried not to cry. Right. I've spent my entire life with no direction, no guidance, that with no purpose, no idea of what I want to do, and I finally found this thing that I'd given my life to. I mean, I wanted to spend my entire life in a combat arms career. There, and I didn't want to be at the time. It was always a goal of mine to become an officer, but at that moment, I didn't want to be an officer. The only thing I wanted to do is go to Range Battalion. That was it. We had worked out multiple. There were some stepping stones there, so that was what I want to do. I just want to be a fighter on the ground, and so I've made it this far, and then just like that, everything is fucking taken away just in an instant. So now I'm back in the spot where it's like, well, that now what? Like, I finally found this fucking thing, and you're telling me I have to start over. And so that was very difficult. And so I did not initially think I was going back in, because um you just didn't do that, right? Like, it wasn't you know at the time, like, nobody knew. Now there was one other guy that started coming in. So um guy's named Dave Roselle. He lost his foot in 2002, 2003. And he was already an officer, and he went back to command a unit as an amputee, and as a leg amputee. It was different for arm guys, though. And so people don't ever look at arm guys like, dude, I can ruck, I can fucking run. I have trouble sealing envelopes, buttoning up my shirt, tying my shoes. But shooting a gun and holding a ruck, man, I can fucking do that all day. But when somebody looks at you, they think, oh, you have no dexterity, you can't do anything, you know. But if you're just missing a foot, they're like, oh, well, he can fucking, you know, and still. And it's like, what? Anyways, I won't go down that road any further. But so I'll tell you what really happened for me is when I got to Walter Reed, my mom had my fly rod, and she you know, I at the time I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do with this, right? But it was another thing that I had identified with two arms. And I was like, God, dude, I used to skip class all the time just for like days at a time, just camp out and go fishing. That's probably why I had such a shitty GPA.
I was going to say, imagine a Georgia boy with a fly rod. Come on now. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think there's been a single one of you guys in the history of the state that hasn't grown up with some kind of fishing rod in their hand.
Nah, that's right. That's right. Well, in fly fishing, man, like you don't need a fucking boat, you know, like you don't have to have waders and fly. It's just different. But and so but my cousin shows up to the hospital like a week later, and he's like, man, let's go see what we can do with this fly rod. So he takes me out to the front lawn. I'm still connected to a wound vac. You know, I have a wound vac. I don't like 3 lines, IV tubes coming out of me, and so we go out on the front lawn, and I'm trying to like figure this out because I can't use my left arm like at all. It's connected to this IV tree, and I, dude, I mean, I just like I broke down crying, like because it was another thing that I had identified with that had been taken away. So I mean, it's like the hits just kept coming, and my cousin came over and was like, "Look, dude, we're not gonna leave until we fucking figure this out. There's got to be a way where you can do this." And so we stayed out there, man. And I just started getting fucking angry, and you know, it's just like, okay, all right, this like I'm winning. I'm going to win this fucking battle. And so I figured out how to strip line like with my teeth, and then I can manipulate the cast with 2 fingers, so like releasing it. And oh my god, man, it was like everything in that moment for me, like how I viewed what was happening, changed everything because now I could fucking do this. Like I knew I would get better at it. Like I'd have to figure it out. And I didn't even have a prosthetic. I mean, I knew that was coming. And so I just kind of started looking at everything like, you know what? If I can fucking do this, like what else? What else can I do? Like, you know, and so I started signing up for all this shit. I signed up for the Army 10 miler, which was like in a few weeks. So by that time I'd gotten rid of my IV tree, and I didn't do poorly. I don't even remember what I did, but a couple days later, a guy walks in and coincidentally, Dave Roselle walks in and he's like, man, you didn't do too bad at the Army 10 Mile. Do you want to be on my triathlon team? And I was just like, I didn't even know what the fuck that was, right? I always thought of, you know, like Bruce Jenner throwing darts or whatever, javelin or something. And, you know, so, but he told me, and I was like, you know what, man, like, fuck it. Why not? Like, I thought I'd sink or, you know, whatever, but it's like, I can figure this out. And so that decision is really what catapulted my rehabilitative journey, because if I'd had 2 arms, I would have never fucking done that, you know, because I was in this mindset of like I knew what I was good at with 2 arms, and I knew that I wouldn't want anyone to see me fail, right? Like I can't fucking swim. I hadn't ridden a bike since I was like 12, you know, and never done it competitively, and so that training triathlon, one, it took my mind off of things, right? Because it's difficult. It's, you know, I mean, difficult. It's time consuming, and then but also it gave me goals, direction, and as I started getting better at it, that's when, you know, when I started competing against like able-bodied people, I was just like, why the fuck can't I go back into the military? Like this doesn't make sense. And so that's when I really started to say, you know what, I can realize this goal and I'm gonna do it. And so we started making it happen.
Dude, that's so awesome. Like the story about the catalyst for you getting out of your own way and really not wallowing and losing your arm with your cousin who pushed you to stay there and figure it out. to prove to yourself that you can now do more than you think that you're capable of after such a traumatic event, right? Like that's really cool. It gave me chills to hear you talk about that. And then, I forget his name that you just said it, and I'm terrible with names, so apologize. But him coming in and asking you to be on the triathlon team, and through training, really pushing yourself past what you thought your limits would be to really spark that catalyst to get you back to the Army. I think that's absolutely cool, man. I think that's really freaking cool.
Well, I think a lot of it, also is like, so when I was in middle school, I decided I'd be on the swim team, and I'll never forget. I'd be like, I wouldn't even be at those flags that you see, like you see them and you're like, oh fuck yeah, I'm almost there. Everybody'd be waiting on me at the end of the pool, like, God, come on. So I quit, and because that's how it was every time I quit, and so this time around, like when I showed up to the pool, I had on the Speedo that my ass just ate. Like, I was so fucking embarrassed, dude. But I tried it on at the store and I didn't want to put it back on the rack because I felt bad for the next guy that would try it on after what I just did to it. I mean, God, I went to war on that Speedo. And so, but man, like, I couldn't even make it to the end of the pool without busting out into like a dog paddle breaststroke. But the difference was I didn't quit. Like, I never became good at swimming. And that's just is what it is. But I became like good enough, right? And I knew that okay, I could completely focus on swimming and I could get really good, but I didn't fucking want to. So part of this is like I wanted to be, I knew that if I got really strong at cycling and running, like I could still be a pretty good athlete. So I'll put more energy into those things, but I just never gave up on swimming. I put in the work and I just got average. And I'm okay with that, right? Like, I'm not the lesson, I think, though, is like, dude, just keep fucking showing up, because that is half the battle. Like, more than half the battle, because the guy next to you, I would say, 80% of the time, people deselect themselves just because they think they're not good enough. Fuck it, man. Like, just keep going and let somebody else tell you you're not good enough, right? And I think that, that's what really helped me throughout all this, because, with two arms, man, all I did was deselect myself all the time. I and so I don't know how else to say it other than, at least from a mental standpoint or mindset perspective, losing my arm was a blessing in disguise. I mean, it really opened up other opportunities, closed some doors, obviously, and it has not been easy. But we live and we learn.
For sure. So, how long did it take you from injury to getting back on active duty and getting the commission?
So I commissioned December 2008. So I was injured 2005. So it was about 2.5 years, 2.5 years, 3.5 years.
Yeah, I can only imagine that that process was probably just a lot of fucking paperwork, a lot of physicals, a lot of people telling you no, a lot of having to overcome that. Am I pretty spot on with that?
Yeah, yeah, you are. I mean, that's it. Nobody knew what to do. Like, this had never happened before, because I was retired, right? I mean, the Army handed me a check and said, "Thank you for your service," and so I was receiving VA disability. They didn't know, like, okay, well, obviously, if he's gonna get active duty pay, he can't get this. So, there was just so much red tape, and then there were times, yeah, where they were like, "Look, dude, we don't think this is gonna happen, but we'd obviously love you to stay in the ROTC program." I just, again, it's just like, I don't fucking stick with it. Maybe I'm just, I'm just not smart enough. I don't know. I just like kept trucking along. And this gives me chills. So 2 weeks before I was going to commission, because you graduate, and you commission. Well, no. This was in college. So I was in ROTC, and so you graduate. Your graduation ceremony and your commission ceremony are one and the same. So after everybody walks across stage, and they ask, all the second lieutenants to stand up, and so, but 2 weeks before that, I get a phone call from a buddy, and he's like, "Dude, why didn't you tell me that you were doing this? I'm aide de camp to whoever. Well, I don't know who it was, Surgeon General. I'm aide de camp to this general that has to sign some waiver for you, and it was like the last waiver that we needed or something like that. That guy was Dave Roselle. And so it's just kind of like I owe a lot to that dude, for sure. But yeah, we didn't even I didn't even find out. So we commissioned on a Saturday morning until Friday night. Like I had all my family in town, and I didn't tell them. I just never said anything. I was just, honestly, if had I not, because I was waiting on the phone call, my sergeant major, because this is a big school, so we have sergeants major and like a few of them. But the command sergeant major, he called me. And he's like, "Hey, look, we finally got the go ahead on this," and it was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I'm commissioning at like 8 o'clock the next morning, and so yeah, we and I say we because it was an effort, man. The school was behind me, and look, those I don't think I had to. But all the tickets that I had gotten growing up, even the shit that was thrown out, and juvenile break, like I was scared to lie about it on my security clearance, right? And so I put that all down, and like there was a hold up with that because they had to get waivers on all that stuff. And come to find out, there was nothing. They would have not found out, even on a top secret clearance. They would have not found out or cared about any of that. There was only one ticket that I had that showed up on my record, and it was for while I was actually at North Georgia, I was peeing in the bushes outside a bar, and
That's the one that they cared
that's
about.
that's the only one, and literally, and it was so stupid of me because I remember because there was only like one bathroom in this bar, and everybody was going out there peeing, and apparently like everybody got tickets, like so many people, and so I'm peeing, and this guy comes up behind me, he's like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm fucking pissing, man. What does it look like I'm doing? Give me some space."
You
He's like,
told
"All
them
right, well."
yourself.
He was like, "Well, when you get done, why don't you come sign this ticket?" And I was like, "Oh, motherfucker." So I called like, the number they tell you to call, and I talked to the solicitor, and she's like, "Yeah, you just pay $100 and that's it. It's done." So I did that. Well, you're admitting guilt as soon as you do that. And like there was, I don't know how many other people, they ended up saying like that was entrapment, and because they, and they got out of it. But I was an idiot. So whatever. Peeing in the bushes, man. That was it. That was the one that stuck. So
Dude, I think it's really cool that you set the stage for amputees being able to get back to doing what war fighting essentially, and you ended up a 12 Alpha after you commissioned, so an engineer, right? How did that happen? Did you fight to be infantry, or is that just kind of what they were going to let you do?
I don't know. I put infantry as my top choice. So I think I did infantry, engineer, and armor officer.
So
So
the army decided for you essentially is what
yeah,
happened.
but at the same time, so like you get to you put your list, right? Your wish list, and like 40% of your tally is your grades. And so yeah, I didn't have the best GPA. I don't Yeah, I don't think it was terrible because back in the day, because North Georgia, the way that they did it was it was like, North Georgia got all the infantry slots because they were such a powerhouse for that. But they changed it. They changed everything. So the saying used to be 2.0 and go. You get a 2.0 GPA and boom, you're off. Do you want an infantry man? You fucking got it. And so it's just not like that anymore. And I could have done branch detail infantry where like you show up, you do 3 years of infantry, and then you go off to somewhere else. I didn't know, or I guess maybe wasn't explaining to me like a lot of times like if you're good, like they keep you in the infantry branch. But I didn't want to like say, oh yeah, I'll do this many years of infantry, and then y'all can put me in a post office. Like, oh, what the fuck am I? And I didn't know anything about engineers other than like the way that it was explained to me was like, dude, it's the infantry with explosives. And I was like, fuck yeah. But nobody really said that like being an officer is a lot different. So you're not the dude with the battering ram or setting the charges and but anyways, I had a good time. So whether they said, "Oh yeah, we're not letting the one arm guy be infantry," or it was just my shitty grades. Because as far as from a leadership perspective, the other scoring aspects were, how you did at your basically it's called advanced. I don't know what's called now, advanced camp. So you go out to Fort Lewis for 30 days and you do all this stuff, and then they take another. So like for military tactics and all that other stuff, I did really well. It's just my GPA was probably like 2.5, maybe.
Well, I mean, we can't win them all, right? So you end up doing 3 more deployments as an amputee, setting the stage to get people. I know the most famous one I can think of, that's an amputee that comes back is Nick Lavery back to the Green Berets, right? Like he's pretty famous for doing that. And so, I had no idea you were the guy that was like the first one to come back in as a commissioned officer as an amputee. So I think that's really awesome, man. You do 3 more deployments. 2013 rolls around and it's time to get out. What led to the decision for you to get out? Was it just time?
Yeah, I started falling back into bad habits. So, like I was saying earlier, all I wanted to do really was be in Ranger Battalion. Like I just want to be a fighter, and I don't think in hindsight, like I was probably not the best officer, because I wanted to be on the ground. Like that's the only thing I wanted to do. And so like in my second deployment, it really, man, it just sucked, dude. Like we're doing route clearance, so it's 2010, and it's like basically my job was to go in and switch the dates in PowerPoint. Like okay, let's roll the dice. Which route are we doing tonight? Okay, like and because it was the same shit over and over again. And I was fucking. I just hated it. I was bored. And so look, I got to own it, right? I have to own it. But at the same time, I tried going to Ranger school, and which again, I wanted to go to battalion. I went to pre-Ranger school at Fort Bragg and was like second in the class, and they still were like, no, what? I don't know. It's because at the time I couldn't do monkey bars, and so, but that was the only thing like I could not do was monkey bars. I could do pull-ups, and so what I did after pre-Ranger school is I went and I got my arm fabricated. So like even now as a 41-year-old man, like I can do monkey bars. It's like that's what's holding me up. Like, are you fucking serious? So, anyways, that I think that always just kind of hurt, like mentally, and that's really what I want to do, and so after my deployment in Iraq, or Afghanistan, so that was the last deployment I had. I mean, that was really a fun deployment. I mean, because I was on like the first group of, we call them SFATs back then. So
Yep.
what is that, like advise?
Yeah, I can't remember what you had, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Everybody thought we were, when they first heard of it, everybody thought we were like special forces. We were like 12-man team, and then we show up and there's like a couple fat guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We're not,
SFAB was not the
we're
greatest
special
in the beginning, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're special, and so, but like we had some great dudes though. Like we did have, it was like, anyways, like we were pretty good because we were one of the first ones coming out of Fort Bragg, which Fort Bragg, we got some good people. But anyway, so I'd volunteered for that, and I mean, me and 2 other captains, dude, we were rolling around in this NRAP, just like middle of fucking Maywan by ourselves. Like we roll up to these outposts and we're like, who the fuck are you guys? We're like, don't worry about it, man. We're good.
We're the cool guys, right? Yeah.
And but one of my jobs was like on this op was like leading, because we were sleeping with Afghans, but leading helping them build a road. So we had these infantry guys that are pulling security for them, and so building this road and setting up these checkpoints and all this other shit just to keep everybody, Taliban below the Reg Desert, so we could, and we would come up, because I mean we're like throwing Mikliks, man, 100-foot C4 charges. Like, I mean, we're fucking shit up. But then, we'd come up on IEDs or weapon caches, all this stuff. And so we'd have to wait on EOD. And I find it's just like, dude, this is fucking, because what was happening was the Afghans, man, when they get bored, like they will go hang out with the Taliban. Like they're friends, like they know each other, right? Like they get on the radio, like they get on the same frequency, and they're like, hey, why don't you put down your weapons and come out? Why don't you come out? And like, you come out, and it was like 2 toddlers, like you know. Um, but anyways, so I was just like, dude, I told the infantry guys, I was like, if you guys get me some C4, like I will blow this shit. And so I started blowing this stuff, and it was the funnest fucking time. And so, anyways, the reason why I tell that story is because when I got back, I was sent to Captain's Career Course, which is like going from fifth gear to like reverse. And there's a female, there's a female commander wearing tennis shoes, like in her uniform, and I'm just like, what the fuck did I just walk into? And like, cause like, even if you're a female, like a Fort Bragg, like that shit didn't fly. Like it just didn't, like and so, cause Fort Bragg, that's just for it. When you're at infantry, like bases, I'm sure Fort Stewart was similar. Like when you're in infantry dominated bases, like I don't give a fuck what your problem is. You don't come to fucking work in tennis shoes. Like that's not how things roll. And I don't even know what her problem was. But anyways, I got sent to anger management. Like right when I got off the bus there, because there was the XO, another female with like these long fingernails, and so like I'm standing there, I'm trying to like sign into the unit, and she's just like texting on her phone, and I'm like, hello, and she just doesn't say anything. And so I just fucking walk right by her. She's like, excuse me, excuse me. And I was like, no. You can fucking sit back down. I'll talk to the commander. And then I see the commander's intentions. I was like, what the fuck? And so it was brutal. Fortunately, the first sergeant, he was from Smoke Bomb Hill, and at Fort Bragg, and he was like, sir, come on, man. So we had a good conversation. I got sent to anger management. Long story short, I got into I went on leave. This is like right before Christmas, and I went on leave. We were going to start class like in January, and I was hunting actually down at Fort Benning, so Captain's Career Course for engineers in Fort Leonard Wood, and I was hunting with a buddy, and instead of just going camping like we were going to do, we decided to go to a bar in Columbus, Georgia, and I got into a bar fight, and it doesn't matter what was said, but I like slammed this dude's head into a table, and so I got kicked out, and the other guy got kicked out too, but he was just leaving, and the cop, because I was like chasing this guy down, and the cops were there, and they're like, hey, look, man, that guy's walking away, like we're not arresting you. We don't. I mean, the guy looks like a douchebag. I don't know. Like they're probably looking at me like, oh, he's got one arm. He's obviously his soldier lost arm, and the cops were being completely awesome. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back in the bar. They're like, that's the only thing you can't do. Like they did kick you out. You just, you go to another bar. You just can't go to that bar. And so, but I just kept walking. I was going back in that bar, and a cop like puts his hand on me. He's like, dude, come on. And I turn around, I headbutt this dude.
Uh-oh.
So I
Now you're
headbutt
going to
this.
jail.
I had one way fucking ticket, and I headbutt this guy, and now like a bunch of cops are there, and I get put in the back of the cop car, and they didn't handcuff my left hook, and so I busted out one of the windows in the cop car, and I hear one of them like, dude, he just broke the fucking window, like I didn't know how to handcuff it. And so and anyways, I get put in the fucking drunk tank, and fortunately everything got dropped. I talked to the police officer. I apologized for everything. I was not court martialed. The leadership was pretty cool about that. I had to go back to anger management.
So you did anger management twice.
Yeah, and alcohol awareness or whatever, and yeah, yeah, the officers thing. So it's different. Like you go in with like an individual counselor, but anyways, so I was just like, man, you know what? Like this is again, I had a little bit more wherewithal, situational awareness and what was going on, and it's like I can't keep doing this, and so I decided it was time to get out. So I was medically retired a second time after that.
Well, at least you got to hang on to your medical retirement. And so let's talk about the transition, because that's really kind of the sole focus of why I created the strategic veteran. Is I wanted to showcase, like, the problems that we all go through in transition. We all go through them. You're not unique in your transition hole or whatever. Like, we all have the same loss of purpose, loss of identity, not understanding like who we actually are. And so, what were some of the things you dealt with in transition? I know depression, anxiety, any substance abuse. I mean, it sounds like you were a pretty heavy drinker. I whiskey was my poison. And, not that I ever headbutted a cop, but there were several situations that I probably shouldn't have been in bars or been allowed back in bars, or whatever. So, these are all really common things. And so I'm curious if you want to share some of the things you overcame in your transition, and did any of it have to do with dealing with, the stuff from your first deployment or any of your other deployments?
Um, I don't know if it was a specific deployment. W- w- For me, it was very difficult, and I'll be, it still is difficult. Like I miss it. I miss it. And because it becomes a part of you. You can't ever let go. So I mean, I still deal with, like, it's like, what was that movie, Napoleon Dynamite? I was like, Coach would have put me in third quarter, we would have won state. I just can't let go of the military, and so, but for me, what I think with substance abuse is, if we're not actively engaged in something that is, in some form or fashion fulfilling our purpose or getting us close to our purpose, um then yeah, that's what we fall back on. Like, many of us are addicts, right? Like, that's the people who voluntarily, not because, like, if you voluntarily join like combat arms, many of us are addicts. We have addictive personalities, and I mean, that's why I run as much as I do now. Because if I didn't, I'd be in a bottle of whiskey, right? And so we're always looking for something. And this is my opinion. I'm not a psychologist, but to me, we're always looking for that edge, and that whatever it is. And so if we're not finding that in any other method, well, we're just gonna get fucking wasted, and then we'll lose all of our inhibitions and be like, dude, yeah, I can take down that tree, or I can, whatever. And then we find ourselves in the fucking in the rut, wondering, what we're gonna do next. Yeah, I was in that for a while, man. But I think for me, that's where running has helped fill that gap. And I mean, I advocate for that over anything else, physical fitness, but setting an ambitious, target towards that. And one of the reasons why I've struggled, why I still struggle getting out, is just because, like, I got out, and I worked for Kinder Morgan, an oil and gas company. He was amazing. I love that. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So then, I got out, started a small business, and I was in sales. So I had, salespeople, and it's like, I'd rather cut off my right arm than keep fucking selling stuff. Um, and and so it's like, God, man. And I ended up where I am now just because, like, I do love motivating and inspiring other people, and other people were asking me, like, I started getting asked to speak, and someone like, oh, when are you gonna write a book? I was like, man, I've never really thought about that. And so, after doing, like, some soul searching for me, that I don't that like I feel that is my purpose, because nobody's ever going to remember who I am, but they'll remember, maybe my story, or how my story made them feel, for them to have hope to keep going. And so if I can help provide that, like, dude, God, man, at least I can give something back, because I feel like I've just been selfish my whole life chasing my military dreams. And anyways, without pontificating any more on that, um that because that's what I'm doing. I talk about it all the time. but I feel like I have to hold myself to a higher standard because I'm trying to teach people these things, but also it's a second check on me as well. Like I have to continue living these things. And but yeah, man,
I
I
think that's the beauty of the healing journey, man, is you're using physical fitness and ultra marathons, extreme distance running. I think you're fucking insane. Like no way in hell you're getting me. I wasn't built to run. Like this is not for me. I hate it. I was built to carry heavy shit long distances. So I'm more of a ruck guy, but like, there Matthew Banco is another creator that I met on LinkedIn when I started my journey. And he talks about we have a MEPS to get in and we need a MEPS to get out, right? So mental, emotional, physical, social, spiritual, those are five things there. The physical fitness one, I think, is extremely important. I exercise from the minute I get out of bed. For the first hour I'm awake every day. It's usually in the form of a longer walk, fast with the dogs, since I just had a back surgery. But some days it's yoga or some kind of max reps, pull-ups, push-ups, body weight stuff, right? Like there's always an hour of exercise every morning when I get up. And I lost sight of that when I got out because somebody was telling me I had to be at 6 o'clock PT every morning, and I'm gonna go on an 8 mile run, and we're gonna do these stupid ass fucking exercises that really don't fucking matter or whatever. And so I just let go of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then weapons PT was always fun, which hindsight's 2020 because that actually is a pretty good workout. But like I just hated it so much, and so I just let go of it. And now having lost almost 100 pounds over the last year, and really getting back into fitness, I'm in better shape now than I ever was in the Army. I weigh less than I ever did when I was in the Army, and it's just so important. And doing that first thing in the morning for me, if I don't do it, it ruins my entire day. Like my whole day will be thrown off. And so I totally understand what you're saying. And then going to what you were talking about, you know, holding yourself accountable because now you're serving others, you're helping others improve their life. It's a lot like what I'm learning in building this business, and all the things that I talk about with plant medicine and integration and holistic healing and mindfulness and meditation. And like, my content now has become examples of that stuff and actively practicing that stuff, so that the people who listen and the people who follow, they see that I'm not just a guy out here trying to tell you to do these things, that I actively practice these things every single day. And it makes me better as a person. It helps me stay where I need to stay and be a better person. And so I relate to what you're saying so much, man.
well, and I think another thing about the physical fitness piece is it gives us self-esteem. So regardless of whether you're, walking, rowing, cycling, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like your body's releasing these endorphins, and you did something hard. So when you're done with it, you're like, man, you're like you feel accomplished. So, I've been curled up in the fetal position on the couch. I don't know how many times, just depressed. And that's what really triggered me to, like, I've got to get back into running, cycling, whatever it is. And the extremes are a lot less, like, they just lose their power, right? Like I don't the emotions just aren't as extreme. So that's why I look at that. I wish I was more spiritual. I wish I could meditate more. Like I just moved to Austin, Texas, from New Orleans. Man, I used to have this awesome morning routine, dude. It was so great. Like first thing I do is I'd wake up, and I fix my coffee like the night before, but I'd hit the on button. And as soon as I hit the on button, I would meditate. I use the Calm app. I meditate. As soon as that was over with, I pour my coffee, and then I'd do the dishes, and I'd listen to Blinkist. Have you heard of Blinkist? It's, yeah, it's I love that, dude, because it's like, I mean, every book you could think of, in like
It's
10,
Cliff
15
Notes for
minutes.
for every book. It's a really
Yeah.
good way to so I use my morning walks to listen to audiobooks or study something or whatever. And I get your point, man. It's like you can fill this time with things that move the needle forward and like create these routines that set yourself up for success. Cause I do something similar. I don't take my coffee until after I'm done exercising. It's like a reward for doing something hard, right? Like I have to earn that coffee.
Man, you know why I do it? Because, if I don't, I'll have to poop while I'm running, and so that's
Hey, that's fair enough, man. No, I get it. I totally get it.
yeah. Otherwise, dude, I don't know how many times I've come back to the house with one sock or like, without a beanie. Oh, matter of fact, this is a funny story. When we were at the first officers basic course in Fort Leonard Wood, we were doing this 5 mile run, so it was like part of a pre-sapper deal. And man, dude, we were, it was like 5 minutes before we had to start, and I was like, oh my god, like I've got to poop really bad. So I just ran to some bushes like that were in front of one of the barracks that we lived in, and I used both my socks. Like, so I was running this thing, and it's dark. Thank God, because someone's gonna yell at you for not having socks on. And so I used my socks. No shit, no pun intended. The like whoever we're supposed to do like philanthropic stuff or whatever. There's like a philanthropy chair for the group. Decided that Saturday we were gonna meet and pick up all the trash around the barracks.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
And so I was like, as soon as class was over, like I ran back and picked up my poop socks, just so nobody would, because it'd be obvious because everybody saw like I had no socks on. But anyways, so
So
yeah,
let's
that's why
talk
I'm a
about
coffee runner.
what got you into to starting that business. And I totally relate to what you say about like being miserable in a sales job because I also started in the insurance industry trying to build my own agency, have sales teams underneath of me. It was a scummy industry and I hated it. And I just generally don't like sales really, even though it's part of it, right? Like sales is always involved in business, but there's way better ways to go about it than what I was taught and how I cut my teeth on it. But so what sparked the entrepreneurship thing for you? Was it just a need to find purpose again?
Yeah. So the first time, like after my insurance
Yeah,
agency.
when you got out, yeah. So I was also in the insurance agency. That's where I got into business for the first time. That's how I became an entrepreneur and really started cutting my teeth on it. And so, were you in the insurance industry? Is that what you did?
No, so yeah, that was one. So I started an insurance agency, and my wife is a State Farm agent, and so that's kind of how I did it because I was working so much at Kinder Morgan, and when we got engaged, she was like, "Look, if we're gonna start a family, you know." I was making good money, but I mean, I was working sometimes 7 days a week, out of the house at 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes not home till 9. Just like, if you break that down, you're not making that much per hour as much as you work. And so that's why I decided to go into sales just so I could, not have a cap on my earnings. And so insurance just is the logical thing because I had her for assistance. And I knew that it was very lucrative. I mean, in Louisiana, yeah, that's the highest auto premiums in the country. Homeowners insurance the same, and so I built a very profitable business, but just like what you said, I mean, it is very transactional. I mean, because in order to make money, yeah, I mean, you have to make multiple sales a day. So I mean, it's like you're getting on the phone, off the phone with many people all day long, and it's just I don't know. I just feel like
Well,
a
not
lot of
only that,
fear,
you were in so you did property and casualty, right? That's what I ended my insurance career with was at an Allstate agency, and I hated that. Inherently, I don't think property and casualty insurance would have been bad if I would have just landed at a better agency. I started selling final expense to seniors, so an intangible product to the poorest one third of Americans, right? So it was even worse. And you're absolutely right. Life insurance is so fucking lucrative. It's not even funny, but it's also it's a dirty dirty business. And I just hated it, man. I saw all kind. I mean, I was taught when I was going around. I was taught if you find another insurance agent's little "we sorry we missed you" card on the door, you pull that shit off and replace it with your card. Yeah, I was taught how to replace policies without breaking the law when somebody had been there 2 hours before I got there and had already written them a policy. I was replacing policies for people. So I really hated that industry as a whole.
Yeah, and there are a lot of agents that do, dirty stuff. Like they skirt the line, but it's like, dude, is that right? Like somebody would call in thinking I was their agent, but someone else had done the wrong thing. You know what I mean? And it just dirty stuff. But again, that's why I'm out. But I mean, sales is still going to be, if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, it has to be a part of your bucket, right, of your toolbox. But it's just different now, and I think so. With what I'm doing now, the speech is the product, right? So I'm not the product. The brand is important, but at the same time, the speech is the product. And if I can get that right and provide value to people, then that will sell itself. So it's a little bit different. It's not like cold calling 100 people a day, in hoping that you land a fish. So, but I wound up there just because, one, I've been now working by myself for such a long time. Like I didn't want to go back and work for anyone else. And by the way, I'm now 41. So, I'm a little old to start like with another company. Like if I go start with another company, I'm at the bottom of the barrel and I have to work my way. And I'm not against anything to put food on the table. Don't get me wrong. But if there are other options out there, like why would I do that? But right now, I would think that I'm not that marketable because I've been out of, like, what I want to do is go back to like oil and gas. I mean, I would love to do that, but for the jobs and the amount of money that I'd need, like I really don't have any qualifications. I'm gonna put like a small business owner. So, but anyways, for right now, it's since people were asking me to speak, people, I was just being approached, and I think I just opened my eyes to it, right, and just said, you know what, like, I need to listen, and I mean, if people are approaching me, asking me, whatever, let's fucking do this, man. And so I mean, it's tough because you have to take humility out of the picture, right? When you're talking about dollars going into your bank account, for sustenance, I think that I do have a good story. I do have things, that people can learn from, and I hope that they can learn from, so they don't have to lose their arm to start acting on the things that I did lose my arm, and that's how I learned them. And so, that's how I ended up here, and I'm loving it, man. Don't the, you know
Yeah, I was going to ask you, man, because I've been feeling called to get into public speaking. It kind of goes hand in hand with being a podcaster, right? And it's like, where do I start with that? And is it fun? And I know you can make really good money doing it, particularly like just having the title of veteran. For whatever reason, people just think that no matter what our story is as a veteran, we're worth having come speak at their event or whatever. So are you really enjoying it that much? Is it really that rewarding?
Yes. And it really just depends on, what is your message. So when I first started this whole thing, I had no idea, because all the times that I've been asked to speak, people were like, "Yeah, just come in and tell your story." And so, but that was for free, right? And so now, if you're asking someone to pay you for it, okay, you need a little bit more than your story. Like, that's not good enough. Your story is something that you can tell at Rotary, but if you're talking to, a corporation, or at an event or whatever, what are they paying you for? Like, what are they getting out of it? So it's all about the message. So I hired a coach, and worked on the message, worked on it, but everything from the performance, because it is a performance. It is, it's not, and it's acting. I mean, so I had the program there, acting coaches from Yale and NYU. But they came from the speaking industry, and they were very lucrative speakers. And so, everything from the movements across the stage, the inflection of the voice, your pauses or beats, all that stuff is already planned out and rehearsed. So it's it just gets easier and easier the more that you do it. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it.
It's probably
So
really cool because you get to meet some awesome people, I'm sure.
yeah, oh my gosh, man, and it's so crazy. Like, yeah, there's some famous people too, but so many people. What I struggle with, social media. I just like I don't like it, man. I don't like staring at my phone, and so many of these people, like, they're very popular because of that. Like, they have, million followers or 100 or whatever it is, and like, I'm trying to leave my like, get away from my phone, right? And so I don't know, I'm looking at hiring somebody. I have a race coming up in a few weeks. And so after that, I'm looking at hiring somebody to just do everything for me.
Dude,
So
and that is, I mean, it's super, like, it's super important this day and age to build your personal brand on social media because it just drives everything. Like, it's the quickest, easiest way to get in front of your target audience on just a massive scale. And when I started, man, I hated it too. I was just agnostic towards social media. I wanted nothing to do with it. And now I've kind of embraced it, and like, it's kind of a fun little game to play to see how good can I get at actually growing my network and my following based on no tricks, man. Like, it's all organic. It's all me. It's not me, looking for engagement pods or anything like that or whatever. But I hated it too. I get it. I know right where you're at, dude. So, um, you like to run ultra marathons. Is that therapy for you?
100%, 1,000% therapy for me.
How did you get in? I know you started with the triathlons right after you got hurt, and that really inspired you, showed you what you were capable of. But how do you get into ultra marathons? We're talking like 100+ mile races, right? Like, I know you've got a couple that you want to do. They're like 250, 300 miles. Like, that's out of control, dude. Like, how? Why? Where does this come
Yeah.
from?
So my uncle really got me, I guess, turned on to ultras. Because back in the day, everybody ran road, like, and so it's horrible on your knees, and especially, like, they don't have the same kind of. Anyways, he had like 3 knee replacements, all that stuff. So he started running trail and ultras. And but I remember when, I guess, on my second deployment, I came home on leave and I signed up for a marathon in Atlanta, and I ran at like 3 hours. And I was like, man, that's not that bad. And so I fell in love with it. I started when I got back from that deployment at Fort Bragg. I would just throw on my Camelback and my fly rod, just run for a couple hours. And so now, um, for me, one, it's hard, it's difficult. So that checks that box, right? I think that you just have to do something difficult to I don't know, make it worth your while, to make you seem productive, if that
Yeah.
makes sense for
No, it
me
does.
anyways.
It totally makes sense. I mean, because it applies to not just like ultra marathons, but it applies to building a business or being, instead of just being, an employee at your job, do everything you can to get as close to the top of that revenue chain as you can. Be an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? Get the certifications, go above and beyond, right? Like, do the hard shit. Don't just exist, because it does make life worth living, and it gives you purpose. And I love that, man. So, what are some of your personal and professional goals for the next couple of years moving forward? What do you hope to achieve?
So personal, so I did get into the Tahoe 200 next July. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. But professionally, I do, within 2 years, I would like to publish a book. So I've been, you know, I'm in the content creation. Basically, I just writing, just, I just letting it flow. No real No categorizing or anything like that, just writing. And so I'd like that to happen in 2 years. And then, I would be happy with just three big gigs a month. Is where I'd like to be, because some gigs when you're first starting out, I mean, you got to do a lot for free just to get known, right? And then, um, you know, if you're doing a lot of gigs, dude, you're gonna be living in an airport, and so um, dude, travel hurts the running. So that's where I'd like to be. I'd like to command fees high enough to where all I would need to do is three a month and keep it at that, and then I'd. A lot of speakers come out with books because it adds credibility. I don't want to do that. I want a standalone book that people can actually get something out of that can inspire them and provide hope, to keep going. Um, and so yeah, that's those are my biggest goals.
Hell yeah, dude. I got a couple of guys that are published authors, written several books that tell me it's a monster project. I like to connect you with them when we're done with this,
Oh,
or I'll
please,
set
man.
that up because I, after talking to them and hearing how daunting it is, I have no desire to write a book ever. Like, I just
See,
don't.
here's the thing though. It is I would say therapeutic to write, just writing. I don't know why, and that's one of my tricks when I start feeling anxious. I just start writing like, what am I feeling? Why do I think I'm feeling this? Is this really true, or am I just going down the rabbit hole? And but writing, it helps with that, man. I don't.
Yeah, I love that you're combining the mindfulness aspect of being in touch with how you're thinking, how you're feeling, why you're feeling that, and then writing it down because that's a 100% how you heal, period, end of story. And it doesn't matter if you ever go back and read that stuff. A lot of people I've heard like to write all the stuff they're thinking and feeling, and then they go burn it to just release it completely, and that does something. But I love that you're combining all of that stuff, man, because it's so important, and it's like the tools I didn't have when I was stuck in that transition hole for like 8 years, miserable, depressed, and drinking my face off and smoking too much weed and just not being a productive member of society at all. So it's cool to hear you speak about that stuff, man. Last question before we kind of wrap things up here. How do you measure the impact of your work on inspiring resilience in others? Because I know that's kind of a hard, intangible thing to measure, but there is a way to measure it. And I know that it fills your cup. So how do you look at that as success or measure that?
Yeah, so I do have surveys, but more than anything else, if people were asking me to speak that have heard me speak, I mean that's the measurable way. Call it a referable speech coming from Michael Port. He's the owner of Heroic Public Speaking, coach that way. And so that's what they would call as a referable speech. So if I'm getting asked to speak again, called a stage side lead, then I know that what I'm doing is productive and providing value. Another thing, that I wish I could get more of would be from social media. If I had people reaching out to me, veterans or the like, I think that would mean a lot to me. Maybe not to the business as far as getting leads, but I think it would be flattering that, hey, yeah, man, let's hook up, let's fucking talk.
We'll get you squared away on LinkedIn with that, man. We'll put public speaker in your little tagline up there and watch the cold DMs start rolling in, dude. It's strange because every time I've updated mine with a new skill or a new thing I'm involved in, recently it's been the director of this nonprofit called QRF Up, the director of recruiting. And that's probably one of my most successful posts is a job update. And it's like not even a job, it's just volunteer work. But so many people are on LinkedIn looking for stuff like that. It's how they find leads, right? So put public speaker in there and you're going to wake up the next day, particularly because you're established already and people are going to have found you and find out that you're a public speaker and you won't have trouble keeping up with it. I think that 3 a month goal is super, super attainable as soon as you start building your personal brand on social media, man. So I'm excited for you, dude. Yeah, man. Dude, what advice would you give to veterans who are struggling with their challenges and looking for a path forward?
Just that, dude. You gotta get up and move, and you gotta keep moving forward. Never stop moving. That's why I'm such an advocate for physical fitness because the more you sit down And the more that you allow yourself to fall into these pits, I mean, it's just gonna fucking snowball. And I mean, I've been there, man. Like we've both been there. Like, we've all been there. But if we can define some kind of ambition, and it doesn't have to be running, and it doesn't have to be an ultra. It doesn't. I mean, it can be rowing. It can be fucking anything. A project. I don't know. Building a shed. Something that's gonna take you a long time to do. But you have to continuously be working towards something. And I think when you do that, you start to find value, and you don't pay attention to the things that are bringing you down. And kind of caveat to that is that you have to learn to realize that the pains that you are going through are normal. They're normal. There's not a fucking clinically sane person in the world that has not or is not you know having some of the feelings that you are. You're not alone. So one, either fucking talk to somebody, or two, hey, look, man, just get up and move. Just get up and move, and know that if you do that, this will pass, and the emotions will start to lose their power over you.
Dude, so good, man. Welcome to the human condition. Everybody thinks and feels the same way you're thinking and feeling at any given time. You are not unique in that. And, it's just a normal part of being a human being. I love it, dude. Tell everybody how they can connect with you, find you. I know that you just mentioned that you're not good at social media, but I want to help you grow, man. I want to help you get your
Yeah,
message out there
no,
and
I
inspire
appreciate it,
others,
dude.
dude.
Yeah, so my website's richingram.com, and my I think all of my socials are Rich T Ingram, so T is in Tango. So richingram.com and then Rich T Ingram. And also, if you go to my website at richingram.com, you'll notice there's like a little black bar up there. And when is this launch? When does that episode come on?
Not for a long time, man. I'm so far ahead right now. You probably won't be till like January, to be
Okay,
honest.
well,
So
we might need to cut that. But please go to Warriors in Quiet Waters and check them out, man. And not just to donate money, but check them out and get involved in their program. So not only so they have a fly fishing program, hunting program, but they have an alumni network. So it's not like, hey, they're going to bring you out to their camp in Bozeman for a week and never see you again. They have a connected alumni program, so they really try and use nature, the healing properties in nature, to get veterans back into living an active and productive lifestyle. And I can't speak highly enough about that organization. So
I
check
love
those
it,
guys
man.
out too.
I'll make sure when this drops that I definitely link them in the description so people can find them, because I've been a benefactor of a couple of different veteran nonprofits that Heroic Hearts completely changed my life by sending me to Peru for ayahuasca. And then, I kind of wish I would have had the Operation Red Wings program before I went to Heroic Hearts, because they kind of pale in comparison to the plant medicine journey, but also I can definitely see the benefits of it. And they also have an alumni network if you choose to participate. So you're not just kind of left alone after you go through the experience. There's, my chat, I went in November of last year, and my group chat is still active every single day. Same with the Heroic Hearts chat on Signal. I talk to my cohort on a regular basis. We check in with everybody. So these programs are amazing, man. And, dude, that's all I've got for you. Last thing, man, what do you hope the listeners take away from our conversation here today?
I hope everybody just knows that you matter, and there's hope. There's like reach out to somebody if you're struggling with something. But the biggest thing is everybody matters and everybody has a place.
I love it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Rich Ingram. Please help us get this podcast in front of 1 million veterans before May 9th, 2025, the day I turn 40. Also, if you're looking to get involved and help the veteran community, please reach out to me. We need responders for QRF Up, which is going to be a revolutionary app for veterans in crisis, immediately connecting them to a mental health care professional who will attempt to talk them off the ledge while they're on the phone If not, we dispatch a crisis response team of veterans and first responders to intervene before law enforcement gets there and we all end up in jail or doing something stupid that we don't want to do. It's a really amazing program. And so I encourage you to get involved if you can't think of any other way to help the community. Again, Rich, man, I thank you so much for your time, dude. And we'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at the Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.